Hi guys, good morning. This is Mrs. Tellas. Okay, we're going to start 7.5 today, which is our second step into our journey of factoring. We'll be factoring quadratic expressions today. Okay, so when two factors have the product that is negative, okay, remember product means multiply. So if we have something times another something equals a negative something, we know that one of them is negative. So for example, negative 3 times positive 2 is negative 6. Or we could flip it around. 3 times negative 2 equals negative 6. So what we know is when we're multiplying, if one of the numbers is negative, it makes a negative product or a negative answer. And then if we have the same thing here, if we have two factors, the product is positive. So that means a number times another number gives me a positive something. Either both of these numbers are positive, like 4 times 4 is positive 16, or they're both negative. Negative 4 times negative 4 is also positive 16 because a negative times a negative is a positive. So if the signs are different, it gives us a negative product. And if the signs are the same, it gives us a positive product. And if we're looking for the sum of a positive and a negative, for example, negative 2 plus 8, remember sum means plus. How do we determine the sign? Well, we can use our calculator, but another way to do that is to look at their signs and see that they're different. So we're going to subtract them, 8 minus 2, and we would take the sign of the larger integer. So the larger is 8, and that symbol or that sign is positive. So the answer here is positive 6. Okay, so standard form, so this would be where you start writing things down. Standard form of a quadratic equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so you want to write this down. We're going to use this maybe for about the rest of the year. We'll use it through chapter 7, and if we get to chapter 8, we'll use it there too. So I've got 3 examples of equations or quadratic functions that are in standard form. Okay, if I write it on top here, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. I can go over here and look to see what my A and my B and my C is. So my A would be the number in front of X. And since there isn't a number there, my number is 1. And my B would be the number in front of X right here. So that one's my B. It's 5. And my C is the constant at the very back. That's all by itself in standard form. So this positive 6. So C is 6. Okay, press pause and go ahead and try it for the other 2. Come up with the A, the B, and the C for each. Okay, hopefully you came up with the A, B, and C for each. On here, my A would be 1. My B is negative 3. And my C is negative 40. Okay, same thing down here. My A is positive 1. And you're going to see today the ones that we factor, they all have an A or that leading coefficient of positive 1. My B is negative 10, and my C is positive 25. Okay, so if we go to example number 1, so we're going to do some factoring here of trinomials. Okay, so when we factor this trinomial or this quadratic function, what we're going to look for is we're going to look for factors of C, this back number, so factors of 12 that give me a sum or difference of 7. So I'm going to put sum or difference here. And I want it to be 7, that middle number. So again, I'm looking for factors of 12 that give me a sum of 7. So I start over here listing. This is kind of my work or my thinking. wanted to check it, I could do FOIL. So let's use my disappearing pen here. Maybe not. This is the actual answer. I'm going to put a box around it, and then we can look at it and do FOIL. So x times x is x squared. X times positive 4 is plus 4x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times 4 is positive 12. Well, if you add those together, you got the same thing that you started with. So you know it's correct. So on your quiz on Friday, when you factor it, and that's what this is called right here, factoring, you can factor it and then check it with FOIL if you so choose. Okay, number 2. All right, this time I'm looking for factors of 27 because that's my C back here. So factors of numbers that multiply out to 27 that give me a sum or difference, and I got to abbreviate that, of negative 12. Okay, so this time we're going to have to deal with negatives. Okay, I know that because this is a negative 12 right here. So remember what I'm looking for. Factors of the back number 27, that's C, that give us a sum or a difference of negative 12. All right, here we go. We're going to start listing the numbers you can think of. So hopefully you're thinking 1 times 27. Well, 1 times 27 adds up to 28, and it subtracts to 26. And if I make them both negative, negative 1 times negative 27 add up to negative 28 and negative 26. So you can see, since I want a negative over here, I'm not going to consider positive values. So I'm going to cross those out. And move this down a little. It's kind of in the way. All right, so let's think again. 2 won't go into 27. How about 3? So let's do 3 times 9. 3 times 9. 3 times 9, when I multiply, gives me 27. 3 plus 9 is 12. Oh, I'm so close. See how it's a negative 12? So let's change the signs over here. Negative 3 times negative 9 gives me positive 27. And then when I add them, I get negative 12. So that's it. Negative 3 and negative 9 are the factors I want to use. So again, I put my parentheses down. And I'm going to take the square root of x squared, which is x. So x times x gives me x squared if I were to FOIL it. And then I use these two values back here in my table to put in the back side of the parentheses. So here I'm going to put x minus 3 and x minus 9. And again, if I want to check that, that is my factored form of the quadratic. That's the answer. And I can check that by FOILing. So I can do x squared minus 3x minus 39 plus 27. And if I add the middle, I get exactly what I started in the front. Now the FOILing's not necessary, only if you want to check it. Okay, the answer is what you factored. It's that right there. That's the factored form of what we just did. All right, let's try number 3. So I'm looking for factors of 4, my C, that are going to give me a sum or difference, make this or, not of 5. So I think, notice there are no negatives in this problem at all. So I know it's not negative. Okay, so this is 1 times 4. Well, that adds up to 5. I find it right away. So I go ahead and put my factoring parentheses down here. And because it's x squared, it's x times x in the very front positions of the parentheses. And then I'm going to put positive 1 and positive 4. And I didn't address this before, but you can absolutely write x plus 4 first and x plus 1 second. Though both of those answers are correct. So both of those are right. X plus 1 times x plus 4, or x plus 4 times x plus 1. And you can FOIL that on your own to see if that works, and it does work. I would suggest doing that on your quiz before you type your answer in. Okay, here's number 4. Let's try number 4. Still together. So this time I'm looking for factors of 42, that give me negative 13, and I'm looking for the sum. I'm looking for the sum or difference of negative 13s. Notice that they're negative. So since they're negative, I'm going to have to use negatives over here too, since that sum or difference is negative. So let's start with 1 times 42. Negative 1 times negative 42, if I add them, I get negative 43. And if I subtract them, I get negative 41. Well, I want it to be 13, so that's not it. So let's try something else. Let's try 2 maybe. Negative 2 times negative 21. Well, if I add them, I get negative 23. And if I subtract them, I get negative 19. That's still not it, but I'm getting closer because 13 and 19 are closer together than 41 was. So let's try 3. Negative 3 times negative 14. Yeah, 14. And you can use your calculator for that. So that adds up to negative 17. I'm getting closer. And it subtracts to negative 11. Ooh, I passed it. Let's try 4 doesn't go in. 5 won't go in. How about 6? Negative 6 times negative 7. Okay, those add up to negative 13. There it is. That's it right there. So I'm going to use those two factors, negative 6 and negative 7. So I go over here, and this time I purposely used r instead of x. So because it says r squared right here in the front positions, I put r and r. And in the back positions, I use these numbers that I came up with over here, negative 6 and negative 7. So behind the r's, I put minus 6 and minus 7. And again, if you wanted to write it the opposite way, that would be perfectly fine. Those are both correct answers. And you could FOIL it to see if it was right. So it's like kind of the opposite of FOIL. It's like unfoiling is what it is. All right, I want you to press pause and I want you to try number 5 by yourself. Okay, so here we go. Number 5. We're looking for factors of negative 18, that back C term that give me positive 3, a sum or a difference. This is what it multiplies out, and this is either what it adds or subtracts to. Okay, so I've got a negative here, so I'm going to have to probably use a negative because I've got a negative, because something times a negative is a negative. So let's start with negative 1. So negative 1 times 18. If I add them, that's 17. And if I subtract them, that's negative 19. And you can use your calculator for that if you'd like to. Okay, that doesn't work. Notice that those numbers are much larger than 3. Okay, or the 19 and the 17, not the negative 17. All right, let's try 2. Negative 2 times 9. Well, if I add them, I get 7. And if I subtract them, I get negative 11. Well, I'm getting closer. 7's closer to 3. Let's try 3. Negative 3 times 6. If I add them, I get 3. That's it. Right there. Okay, so I go over here and I put my factoring parentheses. Since it's x squared, I put x and x in the front position in both parentheses. And then I use these numbers we came up with here. So this is minus 3 and positive 6. This is the answer. I hope you got it. If you did, you need to give yourself a pat on the back. Nice job. All right, let's try another one, number 6. Okay, I want you to press pause and try number 6 and number 7, and then I'm going to do them too. So on number 6, I'm looking for factors of negative 40 that give me a sum or a difference of 3. Okay, so notice the negative sign. Since there's a negative sign, I'm going to have to multiply a negative times a positive. So let's start with 1 times 40. Negative 1 times 40. If I add them, I get 39. If I subtract them, I get negative 41. Look how far away that is. Let's try 2. Negative 2 times 20. If I add them, I get 18. If I subtract them, I get negative 22. I'm getting closer, but I'm still pretty far away. 3 is not evenly divisible by 40. 40 is not evenly divisible by 3. I had that backwards. How about 4? Negative 4 times 10. If I add them, I get 6. I'm getting closer. And if I subtract them, I get negative 14. And closer, though. 6 is a lot closer than 39 was. So let's try 5. How about negative 5 times 8? If I add them, I get 3. I found it. That's it right there. Okay, as soon as I find it, I stop listing the values. I don't need any more. Once I find that 3 and it matches, so now I go over here and put my p's in the front because it's p squared. And then I use these numbers that we came up with in our table, our work, and we put them in behind the p's. So minus 5 and positive 8 is my answer. And again, you can have that if you would rather have it as p plus 8 and p minus 5. It's exactly the same thing. Okay, I hope you tried number 7. If you didn't, pause and try it. So I'm looking for factors of negative 20 that give me a sum or difference of negative 1, because we know that there's a 1 right there, even though it's not written between the negative and the x. So I got negatives everywhere, so I'm going to start with a negative. Negative 1 times 20. If I add them, it's 19. If I subtract them, it's negative 21. I'm pretty far off. I can tell because the numbers are all far away. Let's try 2. Negative 2 times 10. If I add them, it's 8. If I subtract them, it's negative 12. I'm getting closer, but I'm still not there because I don't have a negative 1 over here on the right. 3 does not evenly divide into 20. 4. Let's try 4. Negative 4 times 5. Well, if I add them, I get 1. Look how close I am. And if I subtract them, I get negative 9. Do you see how close that is? It's a positive 1 rather than a negative 1. So if that's the case, if I switch the signs on these, it should work. Let's try it. Negative 5 times 4. Well, if I add them, I get negative 1. That's it right there. Those two make that negative 1. So I'm going to put my parentheses in. It's x squared, so I put x and x, and then minus 5 and positive 4. And to check it, if I wanted to FOIL it, that would be a great idea. All right, number 8. Notice that this one is different because not only does it have a squared in the front, it has b squared in the back. But we're still going to do it the same way. Okay, so I'm looking for factors of 32 that give me a sum or difference of 12. Notice all of them are positive, so there aren't going to be any negatives in this problem. See this positive signs here and here. So I'm not going to have any negatives over here. So 1 times 32, if I add them, that is 33. And if I subtract, I get 31. I'm subtracting these two numbers. 2 times 16. If I add them, that's 18. If I subtract them, that is 14. I'm getting close. 3 won't go into 32. 4. 4 times 8. If I add them, that's 12. That's it. See how it makes the 12 right there? Okay, so here's the different part. Not any different over here in the table. So since this is a squared, I put a in the front and a in the front. And since this is b squared back here, I put b in the back and b in the back. That's the new part. And then I'm going to use my numbers 4 and 8 to put in front of the b. So plus 4 and plus 8. And I put plus there because those are both positive numbers. That's why plus goes there. This is the answer. And again, if I wanted to check it, I could FOIL it. All right, press pause. I want you to try 9 and 10. And then stop. All right, so on this one, I'm looking for factors of negative 20 that give me negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to start, and notice there's negatives everywhere. So I'm going to start with negative 1 times 20. If I add them, that's 19. If I subtract them, that's negative 21. See how far away I am from negative 1? Let's try 2. Negative 2 times 10. If I add them, that's 8. If I subtract them, that's negative 12. I'm getting closer. 3 does not go into 24. 4 times 5. Make the front one negative. I feel like I already did this problem. All right, so negative 4 times 5. If I add them, I get 1. If I subtract them, I get negative 9. See how close that 1 is? If I switch these signs, it will work. Negative 5 times 4. That will give me the negative 1 when I add them. That's the one that I want. So I put x and x in my front positions, and then negative 5 in the back, and positive 4 in the other back. And again, you could switch those around if you wanted to. All right, let's try this one. So we have factors of 2 that give us negative 3. See the negative sign? That means that both of these are negative. So my only factors of 2 are 1 times 2. However, they both have to be negative because that's negative. So negative 1 times negative 2 is negative 3. My only other option is 1 times 2, and that's 3. Okay, that's the only other option. But this is the big winner here because it's negative. Okay, so in my parentheses, I'm going to put C and C, and then negative 1 behind, and then negative 1 behind the C, and negative 2 behind the C. Let's scoot that C up a little. That looks funny. There we go. That's my answer. All right, number 11. Okay, number 11 looks funny. We just need to put it in standard form first. Remember, standard form is where ax squared is first, and then bx is second, and c is last. So that means that w squared has to go first, plus 6w has to go second, and negative 72 has to go last. So let's make our table. So we're looking for factors of negative 72 that give me a sum or a difference of positive 6. So let's see, got a negative here, so that means one of them's negative. So negative 1 times 72. I think I'm way off here. If I add them, that's 71. If I subtract them, that's negative 73. That's really far away from 6. Let's try 2. Negative 2 times 36. So how about if I add them, that's 34. If I subtract them, that's negative 38. Let's try 3. Negative 3 times 24. If I add them, that's 21. If I subtract them, that's negative 27. I'm getting closer, but I'm still not to 6, so I got to keep going. Let's see, 4. Let's see if 4 goes in. Let's see, it will go in once with 3 left over, so yeah, 18 times. So if I add them, that's 14, and if I subtract them, that's negative 22. So that's not it. 5 doesn't go in. How about 6? Negative 6 times 12. Yeah. So if I add them, that's 6. I found it. That's it right there. I don't have to go any further because I found it. So I put my w's in the front position because it's w squared, and then minus 6 with the first and plus 12 with the back. And again, you can switch those. The w plus 12 can be first if you would like it to be. This is the last one. It's got an x and a y in it. Press pause and give it a try, please. So I am looking for factors of 55 that give me positive 6. Notice that 55 is negative, so I'm going to do negative 1 times 55. Well, if I add them, that's 54. And if I subtract them, that's negative 56. Look how far away I am from 6. Okay, 2 won't go in, 3 won't go in. 4 does not go in. 5 does. Let's try 5. Negative 5 times 11. And you can use your calculator. I want you to use your calculator. Right? If I add them, I get 6. There it is. That's it right there. Okay, so I put my parentheses in. It's x squared, so I put x and x in the front positions. And it's y squared, so I put y and y in the back positions. And then I use these numbers that we came up in the table. So minus 5y is my front one, and plus 11y is my back one. All right, so this is it. I hope you're getting it. I hope it's getting easier for you. So you're going to go to Big Ideas on the online, and I want you to make sure and save and submit when you're finished. If you do not have Wi-Fi, I put a picture of the whole section. So if you want to look at the notes, you can. 3 to 24, page 389. Most of you are doing it online by now, though. So I hope you're having a good day, and I hope you understood. And if you have any questions, I'm online at Canvas conferencing from 11 to 12 every single day except the weekends. Please come. I had about 8 people today, and it was exciting. So we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.